going on, guys? Welcome back to the No Mulligans podcast here in the tour shop at Franklin Bridge. And if you're watching on YouTube, it's a little bit of a casual episode here. Scott's got his foot up on our new screens that are going in the big learning center. I'm here leaned back against the workbench here where Braden would be regripping clubs, which, Braden, you got a set to do before tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. I'm looking at it right now. So, hey, what's going on, Scott?
I hope you didn't lose the audio from the previous podcast.
This feels way too casual than what we normally do. But, yeah, I get a few things before we get going. Number one, we're on YouTube now. So that's No Mulligans Podcast on YouTube if you guys want to take a look at us there. And then you'll get to see where we are. We're literally in the back corner of the tour shop, but we're hoping to get into the Learning Center soon. And then we're on TikTok, man. TikTok, No Mulligans Pod. We had one that went semi-viral the other day. What are we at on that one, views-wise?
At the shooting of this podcast, I think I saw it today at 41,000 something.
That's freaking awesome, man. So, yeah, we're going to be pumping out more on TikTok as well. And we've even got a concept. Should I talk about it a little bit, about the cracking the code concept that you had?
I think I talked about doing cracking the code, but I think we try to launch it now that you're bringing it up. What if we actually make it a season-long thing?
Yeah.
We start it Masters Week. We enter, you have to enter.
Is it for cracking the code this winter, though?
No, I was going to do it for next winter.
Oh, okay.
Because we're already behind in all of that.
Totally.
I think we start this April, and we have an initial tournament.
Yeah.
And we'll take 12 players. They got to pay something. We're gonna take some instruction. It'll be discounted a little bit.
We'll get a head cover there. We'll get a head cover going.
But we'll come up with a name for it. We don't have a name for it yet. But it's basically a Biggest Loser type program, where it's a combination of private lessons on golf course. You read my books, and it'll be who gets better the fastest.
Dude, we'll just call it the Biggest Loser program. Maybe we run it as a separate thing.
I know
the code, man.
But we make it through the No Mulligans Productions presents
the Biggest Loser.
We can't use that though because it's.
Oh, I mean, I guess
the
it's
name's taken. So
what would that? What would that be?
I don't know. We'll figure something out. If you have a name for it, feel free to shoot me a text or an email or. Send us something on Instagram or TikTok in messages. So, but let's say we do it from April, May, June, July. This idea is fresh off the press.
For sure.
August, September. So 6 months, and then we have an end of season tournament. You'll get voted off. We'll make it just like the same thing.
Oh my God, yeah, that'd be fun.
every month, 2 people get voted off.
Yeah.
We have some sort of the big break type challenge.
Yep.
That, and it'll be based on how you did in an initial tournament challenge setting. So
a season-long deal.
It'll be about how much progress you're making. So
that's fun, man. Because dude,
that'd be so freaking cool.
Hannah and I are watching Dancing with the Stars right now, and it's it's kind of similar to that, but it's the winner of Dancing with the Stars is not necessarily the person who is the best dancer, but the person who embraces the challenge most. It's this is the same thing, man. It's a scratch it's gonna be pretty easy to beat a scratch golfer.
Now we can get crazy with this in the sense of it could be just me giving all the students, or they could get put on teams. We've got multiple teachers, so each teacher has it'd be me, Zach, Elijah, and Erica. You have 4 teachers.
Yeah, just
each of them gets 3 students.
Yeah, just like the show.
And your job's to keep your team going. You have challenges at the end that you can get immunity and you get voted off.
Group lessons every week or something.
Yeah,
like that.
The team. Well, and Erica could pull some of her juniors. Who learns fastest are kids. So she could roast all of us. If you think about it. And so we put some sort of big incentive on the end of it. If you make it all the way to the end. So yeah. We're open to ideas on that. We are now accepting ideas and
yeah, man. I mean, with the new building coming open and just that being a place for FBPI to really work, man. I mean, No
team shirts, to have team practices filmed in there.
No, we're gonna be.
We'll have to do some editing work on the back end. We're working on sponsors. Like having sponsors for this would allow us to be able to do the back end editing work. AI is very helpful here.
True.
But dude,
we're working on that.
We could have some serious fun with that. 2025 No Mulligans Productions presents the.
If you have a suggestion for the name, feel free to shoot that. Oh man, I just dropped my water. Hey, tell them how they can submit a name either.
Yeah, so submit. If we pick your name, you'll get an automatic bid to get in. You'll have an automatic buy in if we accept that name exactly as it is, not a changed version
of it. Yeah.
But the actual name as it is. So, yeah, submit that on. Send it to me on Instagram or TikTok, and we'll go from there. So, yeah. So Biggest Loser type program coming April through September 2025. We'll have an initial big break type opening challenge. We'll have an actual tournament, so we have actual scores. Right? Like, I don't want to base it on what your handicap is. And how your team will be paired together will be based on how well you score. So, like, everybody will be incentivized to score well on the first go. So, I'm excited to do that. We just came up with that.
No, that'll be so fun.
Great.
Yeah, that'll be the first real run that we have at like a series, if you will.
It'll be done by the No Mulligans Productions.
That's
team.
awesome. So that parlays really well into what we're talking about today, which is just the fundamentals. And originally this was going to be another podcast that we'll probably do the next time around, which I think we should, because that's a huge one. I think that would get a lot of engagement too from people who really need to learn that ability. But for now, I asked the question to Scott. I posed this question to him on the last podcast where I said, let's say you're a video character and you're at, the championship of the video game right now, where you're at, Club Pro. That's the tallest you can get. That's the highest level you can get. Now you get knocked all the way down to level 1 again. Where are you starting? And so that kind of sparked this idea of talking about what are the fundamentals of the golf swing at the end of the day.
It's funny. I think it's a hard question to answer, but it also should be the easiest question to answer. I think what makes it difficult is there's so many different opinions that are out there, all of which have validity, and all of which have worked and do work in certain scenarios. But where was I going with this? When I first came up here, I asked. Erica's interning her first summer up here, so her swing knowledge is very low at this point, and we're doing 200 and something evaluations in my first summer here at the bridge in the first 2 weeks, 15-minute evals, and she notices something as we're doing these, and I'm giving little tips here and there where I can, and she's like, "I'm amazed at how many people can hit the ball at their intended target and not be aimed anywhere close to it whatsoever."
Yeah.
And some people do it frequently. And everybody's like, "I just aim so bad." Everybody tells me my aim's so bad. I'm just so bad at aiming. It's like, is aim actually a fundamental? So then, there's a reason why I'm telling this story. Then I told her, I said, "Watch this. I'm going to go hop on a Facebook forum of golf instructors. You want to talk about like the whole bunch of wolves jumping on a,
I can't even imagine. Dude, holy cow.
Yeah. Gosh. So what I posted was, what are the most important fundamentals of the golf swing? So this is 2020. This is 4.5 years ago. And I told Eric, I was like, watch this. So it's like TikTok. Within a few minutes, it was just like, everybody's giving their opinion, right? And the vast majority of them, and I told her this, I said, vast majority of them are going to be setup, grip, posture, aim, ball position, like stance, like all of that stuff is going to be early. You have a few people that say tempo, not very many. Like these are out of like 50 answers, you had 2 or 3. I think there were 2 people that said impact. I'm like,
what a loaded answer.
Like, it's the closest to the right answer, but it's like, cool, man. That's even less than a Twitter answer. Like it's an open-ended question with a one-word answer, with a close-ended answer. And so that made me think, I was like, is aim the most important or is motion more important? And so what we identified, so you think about the level of player that we have for most of those, is that for the vast majority of players, I won't say everybody, but I say more than 50%, the setup, particularly aim and ball position, follows the motion, not the motion follows the setup. Now,
so say that again. The setup follows the motion and not the other way around.
Correct. Meaning, if somebody's swinging over the top and they pull the ball to the left with a square club face, that was the initial thing that I taught you to do. Is just hit me a pull draw.
Yeah.
The setup will move to the right immediately. And so we try to square their aim up and like let them hit a few shots. And, if you just change their setup, give them 5 swings, take away the alignment stick or the alignment aids that you have, and give them 3 more swings. You can do this with your buddies. Don't even tell them that you're doing it. Take away that alignment stick afterward, and hopefully you're not hitting on a mat that's aimed straight at the target. Take away that alignment stick, any aligning tool, and within 3 swings, I guarantee you they will be misaligned again. Because the motion is fairly fixed for most people. Trying to change a physical golf swing takes a fairly deep overhaul to do.
And so you're saying that motion that they're making with that pull draw, that motion that they're making when they take the alignment stick away, instead of being aimed even further right, they're probably just going to go right back to straight on to the dead in their target.
Yeah. So instead of so let's say let's just use the easy example, like the person that's aimed too far to the left to play their slice.
Yep.
Like always aim to the.
And this is the classic. I'm playing for it. Oh, I'm playing for it.
Or even if they're not, they're like, I just struggle with my aim. I just can't aim straight. Like, people tell me I'm always aim to the left. I was like, okay, well, you slice it. So, okay, like that wouldn't. Your brain's trying to do what it should do.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna aim you over there if you're gonna slice it.
Right.
And so they slice it. Well, if you fix their aim, like, okay, we got to fix your aim, and maybe even play with their ball position, move it back a little bit so that it encourages an in-to-out path. Those will help a little, but as soon as you take away the alignment aids, they will immediately, wham, go right back to, won't take but a few swings. Sometimes it's one swing.
And so what is that? Do you think that that's just like doing it this way for so long that, hey, the brain's just going to go back to default?
Yeah, because how many reps does it have of somebody slicing the crap out of it, right? Like,
that's right. Yeah.
That's all it knows, and you haven't given it enough reason to not aim over there.
So here's a question for you. Like, and I've experienced a lot of these lessons that you've given. Of you've got an amateur, you've got like somebody who's not that great, and you're trying to completely change them from either hitting a crazy hook or a crazy fade into hitting something relatively straight there. And I know it's going to be different depending on the student, but what is one of the first few things that you look for as a teacher in order to correct one of those two things?
I try to ask them what is it they want, and I try and fix that immediately.
Okay.
Like what Mark Blackburn put it this way, and I spent a little bit of time with Mark before I moved on. But Mark put it this way in a thing that I watched the other day. He said, I'm trying to make the greatest amount of impact with the smallest thing. Because that's dealing with human motivation.
And
right?
so what does that mean in terms of fundamentals then? Like,
so if I got a person that's sitting here like, man, I've sliced it so far to the right for so long, I just can't stop this slice. I'm like, okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get that ball turned to the left in 5 swings or less.
Hit me a high draw.
It's funny. For those who listen back to the Zach episode, like I with the 2-iron, I told him the other day, I was like, dude, I need to get you a shirt that says like no mulligans on the front, and then on the back says, all right, let me see your 2-iron. like, hey, pull out your 2-iron. It's just like so funny. Go back and listen to that episode with Zach.
We should release some merch, like limited edition merch that has like some quotes like that,
like from each individual person. That would be so funny. But what was I going to say? Where was I? Totally lost my train of thought.
Talk about like fundamentals. If somebody's slicing so much,
so if you change the shot. Now, I'm also assuming, so to give you all some background, I'm also assuming a player, most of whom doesn't break 80 yet.
Yeah, that's
when you get under 80, the setup and the setup fundamentals become far more important. But
God, that's so true. I never really thought about that. And it's more than true. When
you're above 80, motion is everything. When you're under 80, setup begins to become critically important to your performance.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
So this is why I said the setup follows the swing. So if you slice it a bunch, your body's going to inherently aim left. For some people, their like shoulders get aimed really far left. Their feet are fine, but their shoulders are aimed left. It's like, well, fix the slice first, and all of a sudden that stuff starts to correct itself.
Or saying left is in open.
Left being open for a right-handed player.
Square. Yeah.
Right. So like they're misaligned to the left. Well, you fix that club face, and they start drawing everything, like significantly so. Those, either the shoulders or the feet, will realign to point that direction. Now, I'm not saying that grip is unimportant. We teach grip right out of the gate to our juniors and our beginners.
With that being said, though, when we
the
first
motion
met,
sucks.
No, that's right. But like to your point, like the grip, we haven't changed my grip once.
I haven't touched it once.
You haven't touched my grip once since like one of our first lessons. That's
right.
It.
Like that. That was it. Like,
with that being said, it's like how important is grip really at that point?
Right. Like you can build a golf swing on anything. You can build on any setup that you want.
Well, I think the more
you have
important,
to make all the pieces fit.
The more important statement is you can hit a golf ball with any grip. It just
yes, that's it.
You can hit a golf ball with any grip. It's just the
all the pieces have to fit,
that's
right? So like, and that setup will follow that motion. Like one of my favorites. So to give you an example of like the setup follows the motion. This is with a high level player. He was playing at CAC at the time, Central Alabama Community College. And he wanted to go play a big D1 school, and he went on to play at Cincinnati. And he had come to Hank. Hank, obviously, 2004 National Teacher of the Year, well-renowned across the industry. And he had seen like 4 or 5 other top teachers in the country. Like, we're talking guys that are north of $250 an hour. Big time people who've done it for a long time. Every single one of them tried to change his grip. He's like, can't do it. Now this guy's got the strongest looking grip you've seen. He looks like a beginner baseball player that slices it too much that somebody told him to put his hands like this so he can, not slice it, right? He still slices it, but like, because it's the motion, not the grip so much. And so, I remember him. I will never forget where we were at the first lesson, and we're at Greystone Country Club, and his request was like, I want to be able to hit a fade to a back right pin. Talk about specific. What he's really saying is, I don't want to hook it anymore. And like, if I get on a golf course where all the pins are on the right, like for me to just like not shoot 85, I'm going to have to just play super conservative away from flags, so I'm not going to be able to score low. And so a specific request, right? So Hank puts him next to a box, and that box just outside the toe of the club, and he aims that slightly left of the intended target, which it's a left path that would produce that cut spin, and the club face is going to have to be open. He's like, all right, I want you to miss the box. Swings first ball and club, smash the box. Put the box back down, do it again. hits the box, hits the box, hits the box. Come on, miss the box. Finally misses the box about 15 minutes in. This ball goes left of left because he's missing the box, but the face is still super closed because his grip is like way under.
That's so hard with that strong of a grip.
Dude. So we're going to come back to that comment there. And so there's this driving range gets narrower as it goes to the back. And he misses it so far left that the ball's lost. Like, it is in the fescue. You're not going to find that golf ball. He proceeds to hit, I don't know, 20 or 30 golf balls that aren't that cheap. Just, pew. We're talking of private club range balls. Like, pew, 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 just gone. And he said, all right, now you're missing the box. Now make it cut. Make it cut. This is Hank's lesson. He's sitting in a chair, didn't leave his chair the whole time. And we're all sitting there down the line watching it. And Hank didn't use video. He got video to start, but didn't use video at all. And missed the box, missed the box. Come on, make it cut, make it cut, make it cut. We're 45 minutes into this lesson. He still hasn't hit one even thing remotely looking close to straight.
So let me pause you here. What is it in these lessons? Because I've seen you do these lessons as well, right?
They're scary if you're not if you're
not confident in what you're doing, for sure.
Yeah.
But like,
if you're an outside observer,
that's where I ask you, because it's like Hank could have easily fixed that in 10 minutes, but he's intentionally leaving him up to do this.
Correct.
So like, what is it when you're as the teacher? Are you just trying to get them to subconsciously like, oh, well, like this is the only way I can hit it?
So think of it this way. Think of it as like a chess game. Hank basically put an object down that said checkmate.
Yeah.
Or check. There's one way out.
Yeah.
There's only one way to rescue this game.
That's a good analogy. Yeah.
And so he's in check. All right, you want to hit it. Here you go.
But
Hank never left it. That box never left.
Is the lesson learned there greater than the lesson that you would learn if you corrected it right off the rip?
Yeah, guess who's changing it?
The student.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guess who feels empowered to do it?
Yeah.
Because it's not Hank's opinion. Hank's like, I'm gonna put this box in. Well, you want to hit a cut, like the ball's gonna have to start left of that box and move towards the hole.
Yeah.
So that's an easy buy-in from the student. Like,
sure.
Oh, yeah,
of course.
That's that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Good. Now miss it. Yeah. Huh? Now miss it. Huh? That's what I did with Gene, by the way. Gene was playing with the same big hook.
Interesting, yeah.
That's what I gave Gene. So I stole that one.
Well, in the same way too, we had a lesson probably a couple weeks ago at this point, maybe a month ago at this point, where we were working with that high level junior, and we were doing the shot shape game.
Yeah,
it's like just make your hands do it, man. Like just make your hands do it.
He finally figured it out, which was great. And but like, so going back to this lesson real quick.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're 40. Like, it's an hour-long lesson. We're 45 minutes in. I'm getting worried. Like, I'm sitting there going, it's not my lesson. I'm just there to assist when needed. And I'm like, what are we doing? And Hank hadn't said much of anything the entire time. Come on, miss it. Come on, miss it. And he finally hits this straight ball. We're like, ooh, that's close. Ooh, that's close. Meanwhile, we're down the line the entire time. You could see the ball fly on every shot. And he finally gets to we're less than 10 minutes left in the lesson. And he hits 2 or 3 cuts. I don't know how many golf balls we hit at this point. I mean, we are feeding him balls. He is moving through them. And the last couple minutes, he's like, that's the shot I want to hit right there. It's like, keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it. Great, flush it, flush it, flush it. Hank looks at me, and he whispers to me. He says, go over there from face on, look at his grip. Kid changed his grip. No, we haven't said anything at all.
Do you think even he knows at this point?
No, this is where it gets really good. Now, this kid couldn't afford Hank at the time. And so he was hustling on the putting green with some of the members at the club at the little public golf course he was at
to afford
his lessons. And Hank's like, I want to see you again in about a week. He's like, I don't know if I can afford it. I'm going to have to hustle for some money. He's like, I get here to appear as soon as I can. 2 weeks later, he's up again. He's like, I made a couple $100 on the putting green. He's like, I wanted to come back. That was great. He said, once he got up there, he starts hitting a couple balls. He said, Mr. Johnson, everybody's been asking me I'm hitting it he's like, I've hit it better than I've ever hit it, straighter than I've ever hit it. Hitting these little cuts, a couple back flags, shot 66 and 65 a couple times. And I've had so many people ask me, have you changed your grip? He's like, no, I haven't changed my grip at all. Dude had changed his grip to this day has no idea that he's changed his grip.
until he listened to this podcast.
That's right. If he's listening to the No Mulligans podcast, he knows who he is. And so, like, I will never forget that moment. I was like, what?
Yeah.
No force plates, no cameras. Now, we collected before and after video, like, for documentation purposes and to make sure we didn't miss anything.
Oh, and this is also back in what, the 2000s?
2000. This would have been circa 2012.
2012, yeah. So,
and so I'm like, what? And so he went on to play at Cincinnati, big D1 school. I believe he won an event there. Like,
with his self-made grip.
With his grip that nobody could change. I'm not changing my grip. Well, it was either he would have to make some massive rotational move through the golf ball and like lag the crap out of it and rip it hard left with the face held open, which wouldn't be hard for a baseball player to do.
In fact, that's how I hit my slices.
Right. Like, but for him, he doesn't have that option on his chessboard at that moment. So his only option is change the grip.
That's so interesting because I actually recently came to a similar epiphany in my game because I texted you after my second playing of the bear and I said takeaway inside is huge. And for the longest time I'm like, why am I hitting these cuts, the more like slices? And it's like, right. It was such an out to in swing path where it's like that's the crazy hold off cut that we were just talking about.
Right. And that's all the way back to lesson number 1.
Right. So it's like, okay, inside takeaway coming at it from my from an actual power position at the top. It's like, oh my God, like there's the power right there. Mm-hmm. But I guess your point in all of that is it's like sometimes the most powerful discoveries are the ones that you find on your own.
Oh gosh, I freaking love that. Put that on
Clip it.
Put that on a poster. Like, that's so good. Yeah, it really is. Hank always called it guided discovery. That was his art of his teaching. Now, that style does not work for certain players, and I've learned that the hard way. It's back to the person breaking 70. They never believe that they're not going to do it.
Do you think the person who doesn't have those epiphanies, though, like we're talking about fundamentals here, do you think the person who is not open to that teaching, like, do you think that mindset is a fundamental?
Ooh.
Is the self-guided teaching? Because I'm like, you're like, okay, it doesn't work for some players, but like, do those players end up breaking 70? Going back to our last podcast,
they don't reach their potential, from my experience. I'm not saying it's not possible. I think they're...
But there it is, the coachability, the self-guided discovery. It's learning to fail. Like, I feel like that has to be essential to you actually getting where you want to go.
Yeah, I'm still thinking about my answer to your question. I'm looking for a reason to say, no, you can still get there without that.
The fact that you're having trouble is...
Oh, well, I have some particular examples. Like, I have a few students that are coming to mind
sure.
fairly high-level players, but that still aren't there.
Right.
It's like if you have to answer all the questions for them, then they aren't answering any of them for themselves or enough of them for themselves, and therefore their confidence is always hinges on how much confidence they have in you. Rather than
that's actually really good right there too.
hinging on the confidence they have in themselves. Mm-hmm. And so, it's and a student that doesn't trust you as a teacher fundamentally first doesn't trust themselves. So, like, it's like, well, Scott, why don't you just tell me how to do it? I'm like, I am. Well, what exactly am I supposed to feel? I don't know. How do you want me to do it? I don't care. Just frickin' do it. Well, how am I supposed to do it? I'm like, I don't know. You figured out how to walk and run without too much help, didn't you?
That's so interesting because we also we put out a TikTok and it was kind of a clip compilation of some of our podcasts and some of our guests that you had on, and you said something to Jamie George when he did the podcast with him.
Throwback.
And you were like, it was the exact same question. It's like, well, how do I do it? I don't know. I'm not you. It's like, and you think that's such a crazy answer for a golf professional to have, because it's like, you're supposed to have all the answers, man. What, like that's what I'm coming to you for. It's like, well, no, I'm not in your body.
And I'm giving you what you need. You may not like what you need. What you need is, I need you to figure out how to get there. Well, Scott, how do I get to that finish? Okay, take it there, go slow motion. Hey, look, you got there. How'd you do that? I don't know. Yes, you do. You just did it. You didn't think it. You just did it. Like,
but that's
where, the Nike just do it. That's so powerful, because, well, how do I not hit a slice? I don't know. Make the club face look to the left. I'm trying. Well, if that ain't working, try something else.
And that's where it's a good, like, and that's where I think you and I have such a great relationship, specifically in the teaching area, is because it's like, I'm willing to try so many things, and if I get stuck, you help me figure out what it is that I need to be thinking of. I'm like, oh, there's the feel right there. It's like, but that's what a golf lesson is. It's
how it should be.
It's the It's the collaboration. It's like, hey, let me borrow your mind. I'm trying to do something myself, but let me borrow you to see if I can help myself get there.
Oh gosh, dude, I love that. That's like, that to me is the prime student. And it's like, I get to borrow you. Like, hey, let me take my mind and input it on your body to do something, but like, I need your mind active and engaged and aware of your body in order for me to do that. Like, I can't just plug into your body.
Right.
I got to plug into a mind that's already plugged in. Mm-hmm. And if the mind's not plugged in, then like, you're right. You're borrowing my mind and a little bit of me putting you in places, but like, it's why I ask you a lot of questions first, typically. It's also why I ask my teachers, like when I'm watching them teach and helping them teach, it's like, what are you seeing? Okay, dude, keep going.
That's
go
so good,
like, man. I need you to do the hard work to answer I don't want to do that right now. Like, I gotta hurry up and give this lesson. I'm like, give me the 3 minutes to think through the question I'm asking you. Give me an answer. I'm going to ask you another question. If you give me the wrong answer, I'm going to ask you another question. I got questions ready to go.
And that's the key to any service. Like, and I'm thinking, they were talking about this in golf, but I'm thinking about, like, I'm racking my brain for real estate. When I was learning, it's like, listen, the central part of any service industry, whether this is like teaching, whether it's like a real estate agent, it's not about doing your job well. It's about asking the right questions. If you think about it, it's like, I could go out and sell you a house right now, but I didn't ask you, do you want a backyard? What's your ideal layout here? Where do you want to be? It's like, ask more questions.
Right. And ask better questions.
Exactly.
Sometimes you're not asking the right question. Like,
that's exactly right.
What's an absolute no for you? Like, well, my budget's this. Well, like, what's the absolute?
Right.
We know that's not the actual budget.
That's so funny, because there's a question that I asked. It's like, all right, well, if we found the perfect house, what are you willing to spend on it? But anyway, taking this back to golf, that's exactly what a good golf lesson is. And if you're not coachable in that way, are you going to reach your potential? It sounds like the answer is no.
Dude, gosh, so this is really hard for me. So like, I'm going to send this to a couple of my students that are in this category that like won't give us feedback. Like, when we ask you a question, I need you to answer. If I ask you an open-ended question, I need you to talk. Now, I'm really good, and I'm really good at the interviewing stuff. And like, there's a book called Motivational Interviewing that's used in psychology that's huge. And there's so many great tools in there that I've used. But like, man, if I can't get anything out of you, what'd you feel now? I don't know. Did it feel different? Yeah, it felt weird. Okay, so what felt weird? I don't know, it just felt weird. Like, how did it feel weird? When did it feel weird? Well, it felt weird back here. With what? I don't know. Well, you just told me it's back here, so it felt something like, I just felt like I was going to hit it fat. Okay, that's something.
That's better, yes.
But like, well, what made you feel like it was going to hit it fat?
I don't know. And weird are not descriptors.
No, or like, all right, so that one that you just like.
By the way, really quick, weird could also mean correct as well.
Right.
Like, weird just means anything other than what you've been doing.
Right. Like, that could be anything. So we could have changed your grip, and you could have felt like your left pinky toe was broken. I don't know. Like,
you could bomb your first 300-yard drive after getting it fixed. Like, how'd that feel? Weird. Like, of course it feels weird. It's different. It's like, yes.
Or how'd that one feel? That one felt good. Well, it felt good. Well, the contact was good. Of course, the contact's going to feel good. I'm not worried about the contact. Like, I need to know, like, what you felt like you were doing. So we keep asking these more deep questions. And I got students, Jack, who, if we brought them on the podcast, there'd be nothing to talk about.
Yeah, I'm sure.
We'd be talking over them.
I'm sure.
And it's both juniors and adults. Like, and parents, you got to get your kids to frickin' talk. Like, they ain't getting anywhere in the world if they want to talk. Well, Scott, but they're introverts. I've been an introvert my whole entire life, and if you walk out here, people are like, you're not an introvert. I'm like, no, because guess what? Introverts are just scared of talking in front of people.
I'm thinking too about
this.
Get
over it.
Just this podcast.
Just start talking.
Dude, like the confidence and the tonality and the inflection that you have in your voice in this podcast, you guys go scroll all the way back to like episode 100 or maybe not 100 because that was a special episode.
No, I'm like flat.
Yeah, like 122 or something like that.
Yeah.
And you'll see that you are just like completely like flat.
I'm nervous.
Yeah, for sure.
And like, am I talking right? Like, am I doing this thing right? Like, I'm not really worried about how I sound. It's just like, I don't know the rhythm. Like, the friendship's just starting to get there and the relationship's getting there where you and I can kind of, gel, and you did great at pulling all of that out of me.
Right.
And it's just like, we're just scared. Like, walk up and say hello. Hey, I've never been here before. My name's Scott. Like, I'm checking in for my tea time. I have no idea where I'm at. Can somebody point me in the right direction? Like, that's just opening your mouth and stop being scared.
My favorite thing to do, and just because it's like a good human thing to do, and like I just genuinely care when I ask the question. But if you go into like a fast food chain or a grocery store or just something, and somebody's wearing a name tag, say, hey Scott, what's going on, man? Like, how are you doing today?
And they're like,
No. You see the light, like,
because you like called them by their name.
Flood into their eyes,
and you're
like, they're like, oh, I'm doing great today. Like, how are you doing? But it's like, if you can go out and do something like that, ask somebody genuinely how they're doing today, like person to person, I guarantee you, dude, that's gonna pay you dividends. And
everybody's like, well, what tricks do you have? It's like, you can read about tricks and you can come, like, if you just sit down and think like, what are ways and like scenarios that I'm in a week that would allow me to initiate conversation?
Bingo.
Like, so like when I'm checking out, so this is an introvert talking, right? When I'm checking out at a grocery store or any sort of department store, I put my phone down. I'm almost never on my phone. Like, if I am, I'm like, hey, can you hold on a second? I'm gonna put the phone down. So I'm talking to the person in front of me. Most of the time, almost all the time, they have a name tag on. I'm like, hey, Stephanie, like, how's it going? Like, because they'll just look at you like, they just start scanning, like, especially if they're introverted, and they'll just start scanning stuff like, hey, I bet you get some weird items that come, like, especially if you come in, you got like a weird, like, you got like 3 avocados, a bar of soap, and a funnel from the auto department. You're like, what is this? You just start the conversation, or like, how do you say your name? Like, if you look at the name, you don't know how to pronounce it. How do you say your name? They'll tell, like, oh, where's that? What's the word? Like, just think about them. Like,
yeah, that's exactly right.
But they won't open their mouth. Like, I cannot help you if you don't talk.
So this goes back to the question, is coachability, I'll ask you it for a fourth time, it's not that you haven't been answering, you've been answering with great content, but you said that you didn't know how to answer it the first time that I asked it to you, or that you didn't know where you stood. So after talking about this, do you think that having those learned discoveries and being a coachable player is an essential fundamental to getting better at golf?
I think their ability to have their own epiphanies is a requirement. You can't give it to all of them, because then what you become is you become the God that you can't serve, that cannot serve the thing that they want. And I can't give it to you. And as long as it's mine, it's never yours.
Oh, and this goes back to the rent. I'm just renting this swing.
Oh, gosh, dude, you remember that? That made me so mad when we first started. I was like, what? You're not renting it? You can own it right now. That doesn't mean you do it perfectly right away. Like, when I own I could pay cash for my house, buy the thing, and move in. It doesn't mean I'm comfortable in there yet, but I own the thing. I can make it as comfortable as one as fast as I want. I just gotta hurry up. I might not sleep for a few nights, but like you can own the swing that you want whenever you want.
Well, and maybe what we're discovering here through some like long form talking is just we talked about this. It feels like a few episodes ago, but the growth versus fixed mindsets too.
Yeah, gosh, dude, I can't stand a fixed mindset, and I will try and push them out of it as fast as I can in various variety of ways. But like, I can't help you if you can't help yourself.
You know what's so interesting is we're talking about all of this right now. We're talking about growth versus fixed mindset. We're talking about like fundamentals. Our previous podcast was about breaking 70. And all we've talked about on these last two podcasts, whether that be the high level fundamentals, or excuse me, like the low level fundamentals, and then the high level players, all we've talked about is the stuff that's between the ears, man.
Right.
Like, there's a common, like, the swing of the golf club, man. I mean, like, you go watch the tour. Everybody's got a different swing. Everybody's got different motions. Everybody's got different grips. Everybody's playing with different clubs. It's like, what's really the factor at the end of the day?
The strike and the control of the speed of the motion and the ability to get it around the golf course however they need to, which is strategic based. Now, you have various shots you got to learn how to hit. Like, you don't have to know how to hit all of them. All those guys don't know how to hit every shot.
That's right.
Like, the way Jon Rahm hits that shot is not the same way that Tiger Woods hits that shot, or Rory McIlroy, or Jason Day.
It sounds like the common factor there is self-confidence and the determination and the ability to know that you're going to do it again.
Yeah, I mean, we're like just at this point we're just repeating podcasts, right? Like,
but it's like,
but that's what it is. But we need constant reminders of it, right? Like, and it's I had somebody in our we had an event the other night in the pub, and I had somebody come up to me like, "How do you guys do all the stuff that you do? I don't know how you get all that done." I was like, "You get a lot done when you're not doing anything else." Like, what? Well, it's like, Scott, you're always thinking about golf swings. Yeah, I am. I don't shut it off. I'm sorry. It's really hard for me to shut it off. Like, if I'm working out in the gym, I'm thinking about golf swings. If I'm climbing on a mountain, I'm thinking about golf swings. Or if I'm not thinking about golf swings, thinking about how to make people better and how to make myself better to help people get better. It's just like, but I used to want to try to be the thing that makes everybody be better. And it's like, at some point, like, my rate will go high enough where those people fall off because they're going to come to you and be like, "Teach me, teacher, tell me what I need to do." And they will start talking. Like, if you do not dialogue with your instructor, you cannot get better. And if you cannot let go of your own preconceived notions about some things, you also can't get better. That doesn't mean you don't come in and share your opinions on things, but like, there's so many different ways to do it. Chances are the one you're on doesn't work.
So is it fair to say that if you're focused on your motion, if you're focused on your strike, and you're focused on having a good headspace, you're going to be well equipped to go on the journey of finding your golf swing?
Yeah, I don't think that the setup in and of itself is the most important fundamental. I think the ability to strike the center of the golf club with the golf ball is probably one of the most important fundamentals in the game of golf. And there's a bajillion ways to do it, and it requires you to do a lot of striking of various things.
I want to throw I talked about it. I'm going to be using that drill that I was doing out there for like all of winter, just because I think it's so crucial.
You can't do it with that motion. You can't do it with a bigger or faster one.
That's right. But I say it all to say that I think I go out on the golf course or go out on the driving range and I watch people swing, and they're just, trying to take the John Daly swing, taking the grip all the way back to their left ear, if they're a righty,
right,
and trying to swing the ball. It's like swing the club and hit the ball. It's like, what happened to the half shot? Like what? I don't care if you swing it as hard as you can and you heel strike it or you toe strike it.
Or they're not even balanced. Like, just go, we need to do this one day. I'm just going to sit there on the driving range, just chit chat and just look down the driving range. Just be like, unbalanced, unheld finish, unbalanced, unheld finish, unheld finish, bad strike, bad strike, bad strike. Like, if you're making a bad strike, you narrow it down. Like, if we use a different activity. If somebody slaps a piano in front of you and says, "Play this piece," and you've never played a piano before, or you've played chopsticks. Play this piece, even if you know what all the notes are, like, and I want you to play it at speed. So like, don't slow down, don't stop. It's going to sound terrible. So what would you do? You'd slow it down. And if you still struggle, you break it into pieces. You do this piece, and then this piece, and then this piece, and then this piece. And when you're first learning piano, you learn right hand, you learn left hand, you learn white keys, you learn black keys. Like, then you learn to slowly put them. You do play the bottom keys, do a little treble thing, play the bass keys, do a little treble thing.
The solo of Freebird wasn't done at full speed the first time it was played.
Yeah, I learned how to play Flight of the Bumblebee. Like, you're not doing that.
Yeah.
But like, that's how people practice.
Yeah.
Speed and strike. Like, that goes for, like, I'm doing that right now, trying to break my number that I'm not sharing, but like, I'm trying, and it's under 70, obviously, but like, I'm struggling with the same thing. I have to get those two things under control, and I'm starting to, which is great. But like, it doesn't matter what your golf swing looks like if you can't control your speed and can't control your strike.
I would actually venture to say that people who are out there full swinging and not worrying about their strike have the inability to do it at a slower speed.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we're seeing that with Cracking the Code. We take away their speed. They're like, I'm hitting them worse trying to make a full swing and only hit it 100 yards. I was like, yeah, because you have no control.
What is that for somebody like that? Because I like to think that I've got good enough hand-eye coordination. I'm a good enough athlete where I can just like play things at, quote unquote, half tempo and do that like pretty well, at least find the center of the face the majority of the time and get it to go straight. But what do you think that is in somebody who's just learning or somebody who's at a lesser skill
Think
level?
about emotion that's in bad places, right? Everything's a manipulation. Everything's a compensation and a manipulation. So if a swing's in a bad place and everything's a compensation, everything's a manipulation, when you slow them down...
you can't manipulate it.
Right.
The same way.
Right. Which then requires you to make a change.
Can you imagine seeing some of these swings in slow motion, actually?
Oh, gosh, they're so bad. It's so bad. It's like, but if you can't control that, it's like, hey, I just want you to hit the ball first.
Yeah.
And I want you to hit it in the middle of the face. Well, how to do that? I don't know. Let's just put some... Like, if you just put
the tees
barriers
down
around, like put the tees down outside the toe and the heel of the club, put a towel behind the golf ball, like, hit it over there. Like, I'm not hitting over there. And so, like, they're still trying to hit the perfect shot rather than hitting a different shot. If you want to get better, like, one of the fundamentals of getting better in the game is hit a different shot. Do anything different. Like, oh, God. Like, you want to talk about things that get under a golf instructor's skin? It's the person that comes up like, how was that one? I'm like, it's still slicing to the right. It felt different. It felt better. How's it look on the video? It looks the same. Like, they're just surprised. Like, it looks the same. Like, it did the same thing. Why would it look any different? Like, oh, but I'm trying. I'm like, trying. Like, we have this like idea that trying matters. Trying doesn't matter squat. Doing matters everything. Like, it's the freaking Star Wars. I hate Star Wars. But like, do or do not, there is no try. Like, that was not the accent, right? Like, that's just me being...
Do or do not, there is no try.
Right, like, there's so much truth in it. It's the Nike, like, just do it. Like, how? Don't go chat GPT it. Like, you don't have to chat GPT everything.
I would argue it's not that you're not trying. I would say that you're not asking, you're not saying the right thing, right? It's like... My question is, okay, well, it's like, if you're trying and it's doing the same thing, like, think harder. Like, do something.
Feel more.
Or do something else. It's not a matter of effort. It's like, hey, if you're trying, like, congratulations, but, like,
you haven't changed anything.
The try piece isn't changing
right.
what the outcome is.
I'm trying to lose weight. Well, how much weight have you lost? None. Okay.
Well, then are you trying to lose weight? Yeah.
Then you're not actually trying to lose weight. You're trying to stay comfortable. Yeah. Like, that, like... You're right. You're trying something else.
Hey, there's the staying comfortable piece. That's what I was talking about in the failure.
Right.
realm.
Like, and so this is the same person that's like, I just got so many things I'm thinking about. I'm like, well, what are you thinking about? I've given you one thing to work on. What are you thinking about? I'm like, why are you thinking about those things? We haven't even worked on those things. Well, I got to get my hips turned. I'm trying to keep my elbow in. I'm trying to do.
Oh, hey, I've got another one. So you were talking about them just having a lot of swing thoughts, right? And I would argue that you're going to need to do the most basic fundamentals correctly every time before you start implementing new variables, right? And I think you would say so, yes.
Right.
And that's what we're doing with cracking the code right now with the split stance piece. Would you say that a fundamental to getting better really enunciated
are you doing
that,
are you
getting better?
Are you doing warm-ups for choir?
Like that, yeah. But would you say that a requirement to getting better or a fundamental to getting better is going to be focusing on one thing at a time, dare I say?
Yeah. So you knew where I wanted to go with this. This is great. Like everybody wants to have a consistent golf swing. I have yet to meet somebody who doesn't ask for that. I hate the word because it's blame language fundamentally, because it's out of your control. Like, I want to know what I need to control. And you can't control everything. Newsflash, welcome to America. We try to be everything to everybody and do everything for everyone. Sorry, that doesn't work. But in order to have a consistent golf swing, you have to have a consistent thought. And when I say consistent thought, I mean the exact same thought on every single swing for thousands of reps. You can't get better unless you do that, or you're just gonna be wandering all over the place. Like, all right, I'm gonna try and keep my right elbow on that one. I'm gonna try and keep my right elbow down on that one. By the way, your brain doesn't translate those two things the same way. I'm gonna try and keep my right elbow in front that time. I'm gonna try and not use my right arm. I'm trying to take my right arm out of it. Like, what does that even mean? You're just regurgitating something you heard somebody else say. Like, I want to know what your golf swing is and feels like, and it better be very singular, and you better be able to explain it like that.
Yeah, and I feel like the point there is going to be to anchor that thought to then produce a consistent motion.
Right.
Right? And so, like, if you implement something that's confusing or two things or something like that, like, your brain is not going to be able to intake that every single time. And so for me, out on the range, when I was doing it, all I was thinking about is just inside takeaway, inside takeaway, inside takeaway, inside takeaway. And that fixes more variables in my swing, like lengthening my swing on the way back, like making sure I'm coming inside to out, like all of these things. But I think what you're trying to say is if you focus on that one consistent thought every time, you're programming it into your mind, and it's fixing a bunch of other things along the way.
By the way, if you're trying to do 3 or more swing thoughts in a given swing, it is a neurological impossibility for you to do all 3.
For sure.
And it's not possible because your brain requires a minimum of 0.6 seconds to, 0.15 seconds to guarantee any sort of change. And to make it 100% possible that you can change it, it needs a full 2 milliseconds. So the time for the swing, the thought to change in the middle, like you're not going to do it. It's just not going to happen. And so and this is why I also like try to get players away from a thought. Like, you got to get a singular thought that leads to a feel, and then you got to chase that puppy like forever.
Oh, that's so
and
good.
So like, you remember when I was hitting a bunch of 5 irons the other day and I was like struggling. Like, I started out really good and then I lost it.
Yeah.
All I did was stay the course on the exact same thing for the entire time. No matter how good or how bad I hit it, I'm running the same program, because if I run the same program, I'm going to come out of this fog still on the road.
Oh, that's great right there.
Because you're like, when you're
just weathering the storm, baby.
Like, I'm just going. I'm going to keep driving, and I know this storm isn't going to last forever. Mm-hmm. And like, one of the things I found as I was doing that is like, I got excited, and so then I'm thinking back to like tournaments that I play. Like, when I get excited, like, my motion gets short and a little out of control of the tempo. We're back to speed and strike, right?
Yep.
So like, I lost the strike, but I lost the strike because I lost the control of the speed. And so like, it took me a while. I hit 70 something golf balls with a 5-iron, and I finally settled it down in the last 2 or 3 reps, and I was like, oh, there it is. I didn't need to hit any more golf balls. Like, I could have kept hitting more, but I was like, no, I got it. Like, I kept the technique piece. I kept running the same one until the awareness kind of came up to the surface through the frustration. It's like, oh wait, I got a little amped. I did great to start. I got amped, and so I kept going, and wore myself out because I knew in the fatigue I was going to find my answer.
Well, that's exactly where I was going with that. Is the other thing when you produce that single thought over an entire range session, let's say, is that you're also keeping that same swing thought all the way through fatigue. I think it's fair to say that your first 20 golf balls that you hit out of the bucket, you're going to be go the entire time. It's going to be 100% effort, right? It's going to be
right. I'm going to be very intentional.
Exactly, right? And
I'm going to be in control of my motion. I'm not warmed up yet, so I'm a little bit slower, and I'm just flushing it, hitting it so good.
So good. But when you are getting a big bucket of the balls here at the bridge and go out on the driving range by ball 50 or 55, if you're hitting a whole bucket, it's even more important that you emphasize that one thought because it's going to take you through the fatigue.
Ooh, yeah. It's the only thing that weathers the storm.
That's right. It's exactly what you said. It's driving on a foggy highway, and as long as I don't turn, I'm going to be in the same spot when I come out of it.
Right. When we're doing our mountain stuff, our mountaineering, back to those who've listened to the podcast long enough, Elijah and I doing our mountaineering, like, you do not detour. You don't take detours. Even in the worst of situations, you run that course. And so it's like, well, when do you adapt and adjust? Like, well, that's a different conversation. But like, you've got to have the discipline first of like, I'm going to run this thing until it runs out.
The other thing too is if it is truly a good swing thought to have.
That's a big assumption.
That's a huge assumption, but
it's the right one.
If it is the right one, if it is truly the right one, when you get fatigued, your body is going to start trying to go back to whatever that default was previously.
That's all it's going to do. Keep going.
If you keep on weathering the storm, for me, it's that inside takeaway. If I keep that inside every single time, when I get tired, I'm going to start going outside.
Correct.
Right? But if I keep on taking it inside, it's like, okay, we're focused on one thing. I'm fighting through the fatigue, and eventually my fatigue shots look better than my fatigue shots when I don't have it.
That's why we sit there and look at our students when they get it kind of early and they start to lose in the middle, like, come on, get it back. Come on, get it. Where'd it go? Like, I'll ask that question, where'd it go? And they're like, they're like looking for it. I'm like, it's this. And so then you start repeating. This is when we sound boring. It's like, left arm in, clip the tee, left arm in, clip the tee, left arm in, clip the tee, left arm in, clip the tee. Like, we become that like annoying broken record, bang, 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 bang. And where it kind of keeps them from, we're basically like, when they start to get off like that, we're basically like the little ribs on the side of the road. They're like, ooh, okay, just stay right here, right? Like, that's the, left arm in, clip the tee, left arm in, clip the tee, left arm in, clip the tee. Like, it has to be like that in order to get better. It's like, well, why am I just hitting it unsolid? Like, stop hitting it fat.
So I've got
stop.
One topic here to cap off this whole podcast, because we've been talking about this one consistent swing thought, right? The one thing that I'm thinking of is, okay, Scott, well, like, if somebody is listening to this podcast and they want to figure out what that is for them, like, how do we know if a good swing thought is the right swing thought?
The ball will tell you.
Okay, so
how repeatable is that ball flight?
What do we need to do if we're going to the range and we're trying to figure out what that swing thought is going to be for us? Like, it's so hard to answer without knowing who it is, being able to see him, see the swing, whatever. Right. But I still think it's an answerable question.
So I think everybody can start in the same place. So I think this is going to be tricky to answer, but like, I think everybody could start in the exact same place, which is stick your finish. I know that sounds silly, but like, stick your finish, brush the ground. Stick your finish, brush the ground. Stick your finish, brush the ground. Stick the finish, brush the ground. Stick your finish, brush the ground. Stick the finish, brush the ground. Because then, at the very least, you're going to be attacking the same thing that doesn't have any swing thoughts attached to it, especially because most people listening to this podcast have too many swing thoughts, even people that take lessons from us. And even when we try and tell you the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, like, I'm not telling you the same thing over and over again because we are just bored. We're telling you that because that's what you need. Like, and so it's run that, see what the ball does, and then if it's still not out of the middle of the club face, use club face tape, put tees down, put a towel behind the golf ball if you're catching it fat, and miss the towel. Like, well, how did I miss the towel? Just freaking miss it, man. Like, you're driving down the road and a car kind of swerves into your lane last second, or that's not looking, and they start to slide over, like, you immediately slam on the horn, pump your brakes, and move the wheel. You don't think how to do that. And it's not like you've done a whole ton of evasive maneuvering in your vehicle like you would for a professional driver. Like, you're not skilled enough to do that. You are skilled enough to take your golf swing and go like, hey man, just stop hitting it. I'm trying. Just don't hit it fat. Well, how do I do that? I'm like, I can't do everything for you. And like, how little do you think of yourself if you think that I have all the answers? I'm really good at my job and I love it. Yeah. But I'm not God and I am not your savior and I am not the person with all the answers. I never will be. Well, I want it, Scott, your BPN SA POA from Golf Decoded. I need it to be, foolproof. I was like, nothing's foolproof, ever. I don't know what world you're living in, but it ain't planet Earth.
Yeah. And the other thing, here's another one that I think can really help people who are listening and might not have you physically there, is one of my favorite sayings from you is like, all right, it's like your radio dial, right? You can turn it all the way to the left. What does that look like? All right, turn it all the way to the right. Yeah. What does that feel like? All right, now let's find the middle, right? If you're doing a crazy slice, well, if you're having a crazy slice problem, try and hook the ball. Try and hook the ball until the ball hooks.
Right.
And then when the ball hooks,
by the way, the toe of the club has to get to the ball before the heel in order for it to hook.
There we go. But like, okay, fine. Now it's hooked. Now find the middle. Like,
well, what if I hit it unsolid, Jack? Like, but what if I hit everything off the toe?
You got to hit it solid first.
I hit it to the left now, but I hit everything off the toe.
Well, you got to hit it solid first.
But like that's the conversation that I get every day.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's you can tell how frustrating it is. Like, you can hear it come out.
And it is frustrating. It's incredibly frustrating. And it's infuriating.
I understand from them too. Like, I'm taking pistol classes. Like, Scott, what was wrong with that grip? Freaking grip. My do nothing grip. It's doing something. It's supposed to do nothing. Like, it's not enough inward pressure. It's like, yeah. Now we're adding speed, and I screw it up. He's like, what'd you miss? It's like, grip. Okay, fix it. Come on, be perfect. Because in this line of work, you have to be perfect because you are liable if you're not. And so, like, I'm like, whew, talk about pressure. That's way harder to do than swinging a golf club, even though the motion's way simpler, because the consequence when you're dealing with something like that is way higher. And so it's just like, just change it. Try something different. I love how you softened it there, which is good. Bring me down a notch. But like, it truly is like, if you're hitting it to the right, hit it to the left. It's a strategy that's used by like intermediate to advanced instructors to extremely advanced instructors around the world. It's like, if somebody's hooking it, let's just get them to hit it to the right. Slice it. If they're hitting a slice, let's get them to hook it. If they're hitting it high, let's get them to hit it lower. Now, that might just mean we swing them wayside to wayside. Like, I can hit it lower from there? Yeah. All right, now let's just stretch that out a little bit and turn it into a full swing. It's just like, you got to give them the thing that they're looking for. And like, oh my gosh, I can do this. Now they'll do like we all do. And you start wandering. And like, oh, what about this? Like, I'm noticing, I'm feeling this now. And you become kind of hyper aware of all these things because you become concerned about them. And to your point earlier, it's not that you're not trying, so you start trying something else. Mm-hmm. And it's like, now we're not in a consistent thought.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite things you can do, it's hard to do for yourself because it's hard to be fully honest with yourself, is do this with somebody that you know. Say, all right, what were you thinking about on that one? Like, just hit balls next to him. Hey, what were you thinking about on that one? Okay. Write it down. 2 swings later. Hey, that one looked pretty good. What were you thinking about that one? That one was terrible. What were you thinking about on that one? I guarantee you will not get the exact same answer verbatim unless they're a really high-level player. I wasn't thinking about anything. I went over there. Well, like, when you don't think about anything, you hit it straight and right and left and solid and toe and chunked. Like, what? So you can't just tell me you think about nothing. You gotta be thinking about something. Something has to make the club swing. If you just stand there thinking about nothing, then nothing's gonna happen. Like, there has to be some thought, some feel. And so
and also, you don't have to justify it to the person that you're saying too.
No.
It's like, hey, what were you thinking on that one? Inside takeaway. Oh, hit a really bad one. What were you thinking about? Inside takeaway. Like, it doesn't matter. what the outcome is.
No.
You don't have to justify it.
No.
As long as it's the same, you're doing something right.
So I'll give a corporate example for all of my, business owners and people that are in a podcast or not in a podcast that are in business. But when I had a buddy, I had a gentleman that I taught that was an owner of a Chick-fil-A, and one of his head managers was working to become an owner. And part of that is you become a part of a team that goes and restructures underperforming Chick-fil-A's. It's why, for the most part, you get the same service no matter where you're at.
Yeah.
Regardless of who's there, quality of the people, et cetera.
Yeah.
And, a lot of times when people come in and, you have companies that were doing well that are then underperforming, leadership coaches come in and do all these different things. Like, you need to do this different, you need to do that different. What Chick-fil-A does is when they send in these teams, to my understanding of it may be different now, but I'm pretty sure it's still the same way, is they send in teams to just go right back to what they have the setup. They basically go in like they're opening a brand new Chick-fil-A, train them the exact same way. They don't say, you're doing this wrong, you need to fix this, you're doing that wrong, you need to fix that. Like, this is how we open, this is how we clean things, this is how we train our staff, this is how we make a chicken biscuit, this is how we, like, they don't depart and try to correct via some other route. They correct by doing the thing that they did well to start, and they just ride that. And you keep doing that, especially once you have a winning formula. You just keep riding that winning formula. And for the longest time, it's one of the reasons why everybody's trying to beat Nick Saban.
Yes, dude, that's a great one. Yeah.
Or any great coach. Like, they just run that system.
And the same reason why people try and imitate it and yet still fail.
Right, because they try this and they try that and they try that. I've consulted with a couple of college coaches, and one's tried my system, he's tried this other system, they tried that system, and I'm like, well, like, every player that comes in starts out really good, and by the time, the specific program I'm thinking of, by the time they leave, almost every player is worse than when they started. Because every year, every 18 months, every 2 years, they're changing, running some other things. Like, they're trying to find it. The answer is not in trying to find it. It's establishing who we are. This is what we're doing. This is where we're going. Like, I by and large don't pay attention much to our competition. I get some idea of like, hey, maybe they're getting a marketing thing out earlier than we are, things like that. But like, I really don't care what the little course is doing down the street. I don't care what Towie's doing. I may emulate some things like, we could tighten that little piece up and do something similar to that. But this is who we are. This is what we do. This is how we serve people. And if you want to be a part of our brand, great, we're here to serve you. And we hope you'll embrace it. But if we're not it for you, that's fine.
Well, yeah, what a great way to end, man. That's fundamentals of the golf swing right there.
You can hit any shot you want with any setup that you have. There may be easier ways to do it with other setups. I'm not saying the setup isn't important, but it's not at the level that I think the pedestal that they want to put it on. And it certainly is not necessarily as fast at changing shots as changing emotion is. And so, I don't know. What are the fundamentals? I'm still on a journey, but strike and swing and a singular thought is a great way to start.
So good.
So,
guys, thanks so much for listening to this episode. Thanks y'all so much for watching it on YouTube as well. If you guys are watching on YouTube, if you're not, go ahead and run over to YouTube and go and type in No Mulligans Podcast, and please hit subscribe. That'd be so wonderful. We hit 100 subscribers this past golf season, and trying to take it to 1,000 hopefully by
because once we get to 1,000, things open up for us, doesn't it? A
little bit, yeah, but it's more a milestone more than anything. So we're going to be doing our best to push as much content as we can. And then also reminder, if you guys listen to the podcast this far, come up with a name for our next program starting in April of 2025.
You'll get an automatic bid.
That's right. Again, to remind you, it's a similar to the show The Biggest Loser, where all the people have to lose as much weight as they can, but instead we're doing it with golf. So come up with a creative name, hopefully something that's a little bit alliterative, so we can make it catchy. But if we use your name, you get a free automatic bid into the competition. So that's huge.
You won't have to pay anything. We'll just run it.
That's right.
And so it'll be. We'll get everybody involved on the team, and we'll work on our sponsorships this winter to help promote that. And
Maybe you walk away with some free stuff at the end of it too.
Yeah, so. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun, and trying to think what else. What else we need to plug?
Well, we had a bunch of clippable moments on this podcast. So
we'll see what the AI
please
does.
Go follow us on TikTok. That's No Mulligans Pod over there on TikTok. And if you engage with us over there on some comments too, we will respond to your comments. So ask any questions that you have, either about this podcast, about the last podcast. If you guys want us to respond to you, we will in the comments on TikTok. So,
let's do it.
We'll do it.
Unless you're a total crazy jerk, we'll probably ignore you.
But if you have a genuine question, we'll do our best to answer it on TikTok. That's right.
We had some funny comments too.
We did have some, and we had some really solid comments as well. Somebody was like, "Well, that dude just saved me $150."
I was like, "Yeah, keep listening. There's a whole lot more.
That's right.
Save you even more."
That's right. So from Jack and Scott here inside the tour shop here at Franklin Bridge, we'll see you on the next one. Thanks so much for watching. Peace.